Okay. Definitely didn't have any discussion before this. Welcome everyone. Yeah. We were just taking a look at the agenda. So I think current thing is Mohammed, it looks like the video for the sig testing intro got uploaded. So I'm happy to share that out with the channel after this.
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. And yeah, thanks again for doing that. All right. I think the other main thing on the agenda, if nobody has anything else to add, was just like I was kind of curious about areas that folks are interested in, like maybe having as projects or whatnot for the next year for sig testing. Like stuff that we could point contributors to, stuff that maybe like is a bit longer term. And yeah, there's a bunch of good ideas in the agenda here. I think feel free to add any if they don't seem to be represented here. But also, yeah, open for discussion. Antonio, if you got your hand.
Yeah, we have this big project from Mohammed about the migration to COPS. And in the CAPE, I raised some questions that we don't have. And I remember that Aaron had a lot of metrics. We don't have these metrics, right? It's more about metrics about how sig-testing is what are the signal that sig-testing can provide about, is the infra okay, are these jobs okay, how many, all these kind of things. So for a new person, I really would like, if somebody can go down this path of trying to, try to have some key metrics on our infra that can give us a trend of our health. I don't know, number of job failing, freakiness on the infra, resource consumption, this kind of things. I had some ideas on the metrics, but I mean, it's just, I know that Aaron had some dashboards on Grafana or whatever. But, and we have all this automation that detect flakes, right? This script that parse. I mean, I think that's a good area for somebody that is new. You don't need to understand all the Kubernetes nuances. It's just smashing data and come up with visualizations and try things, expose it here, and I don't know. I think that's cool, and that will be very useful for sure. So, for example, this will be, a really nice thing to have to support Mohammed kept to say, look, now we migrated for this, we saved it, I don't know how many hours or how many CPUs. This is more stable because all these metrics are, I don't know, the number of RAID failures is lower. These kind of things.
Okay. Yeah, on that note about things for new contributors to work on, I proposed a couple of items that are discrete and isolated and quite straightforward for someone to jump in and work on. Like one of the good ones is, for example, we have a lot of Python code running around in the testing for repo. It's not using a version of Python, so somebody should come along and basically bump the dependencies, fix everything that's been deprecated in various forms, especially in Python 3 over the last 4 or 5 years that we didn't touch. And propose a PR that does all of that work. And the other thing is it's quite straightforward to verify if the changes are actually working. Some of that stuff has some test coverage. Others are various scripts that are run routinely, and we will know if they don't work. Plus, the things that you need to do are quite difficult. Oh,
Yeah, that sounds great.
we also kind of need to do the same for Golang, right? So one thing that I've noticed in Prow, for example, is there's a critical dependency that's not been upgraded for a long time, the controller runtime. I tried an attempt at doing that, but turned out to be very complicated because it requires somebody who knows Prow internals to kind of like figure out how to do this thing that was deprecated in that library some time ago. But it is kind of urgent because it blocks consumers of that library from upgrading controller runtime, something new. So it's very easy to be in a position where you've got different dependencies and they're not in agreement over the controller runtime version, especially if you happen to be importing the k-testing for into a piece of code that you're running somewhere. And then
Yeah,
somebody
that by the
Wang was
Python.
working. Yeah, somebody called Tim Wang was working on moving the Prague code out. So I'm not sure where he's at with that one.
Yeah, Tim's part of the Proud team in Google, so that's got like concerted effort on it. I think it's just I'm not sure exactly where progress is on that, but like that one is definitely one that like folks are looking at.
Oh, sounds good. When they do start working on it, we do want to bolt a few extra things on there. I've listed what some of those things are.
I think the idea has been kicking around for a while. I'm not sure exactly on when. I think the last I had heard was making sure that docs are approved and also like shared out. So I can go ask if they have a more concrete update.
Yeah, that would be great. It'd be great if they turned up and said, "Hey, we think we're doing this. Let's say early 2024. This is what we think it looks like." And then, oh, from the community, we want you to also think about XYZ that you didn't discuss in your document.
Yeah. No, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Actually, is there a specific? I think somebody already asked for a creating a tracking issue in test infra for the project. The docs should be shared out if they aren't already. Is there a more concrete thing to ask about as well? Like, is it just timeline, or is it also like just making sure that community has input on what's going on here?
For Pro, timelines would be great. We also have a couple of functional requirements that we would like to see. One of them intersects directly with the Google Cloud migration from Google.com projects. One sticky problem that we have is the Prow images live in the Kate's Prow project, which is not community owned. The images that we're publishing have to go somewhere else, have to be moved to another Google Cloud project. And if you're going to do all that work, you might as well also start publishing to an artifact registry and not deal with a GCR deprecation that's going to turn up in a year's time or whenever it does.
Okay. Yeah, I'll ask about if it's been. I don't think it's been shared out publicly yet, so I'll ask about that. Okay, cool. Arno?
Yeah, basically, the publication proud component is not a blocker for migrate the proud control plane. It's like something we need to do at some point, but it's not a necessary. It's not basically a requirement for that. Our real requirement is to move all the proud job inside Google infrastructure before we move the control plane, and also move all the component related to proud like Kettle and probably Kate's 3H. Because those parts are basically, yeah, proud job with specific credentials running inside Google. So if we move the proud control plane without before them, it's going to break a lot of people. So basically our first requirement is to basically come with like a migration plan for the control plane itself before we even move anything related to the code base or the Factify published for Prow.
Okay, control plane first, then the image publishing and artifacts and all of that.
Yeah, we can basically do that at the same time because we can in 2024 just focus on migrate the code base, and while we migrate the code base, we basically decide to push all the image to whatever configuration registry we have before we basically say, okay, in 2025 we migrate pro.git.io.
Yeah, in other words, we can't decommission the Kates-Prow project till the control plane is gone, as well as the images are being published somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sentence I don't think is clarified very well somewhere. Or it might be, I don't know, I haven't seen it.
No, it's not. It's not. But the idea with like when we talk about this with folks from Enchprod, it was like come up with a migration plan where we basically decide how we want to do the migration. Because there's a possibility where we shut down the entire CI, but we are not clear about this. So we basically, Enchprod might come up with a plan next year where we basically have some basically proxy API or whatever internal stuff done by Enchprod to do the migration, because they already did that before. So we have to basically have migration plan, and later think about either we want to migrate the code base before or at the same time. But the priority for next year should be to make sure all the project brand inside the build cluster owned by the community, because that's a big requirement. That's remove the complexity of moving the control plane. Because we can shut down the default cluster and just make sure we just move the control plane without too many issues.
Okay, so that's everything running on the default cluster right now for Kates-Prow should be moved to run on a default cluster that's community owned instead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
just to clarify,
there's
we
a-
don't have default, but it's another cluster.
Sorry, we don't.
Yeah, so we need to get all the jobs out of default onto the like super proud build cluster, well trusted. So yeah, that's what you meant.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think this, some of this is captured above, but I've also added a few more notes just for this. Cool. Sujay, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I have a question. Like, I'm trying to get some context about the migration thing. Now, what is it? I mean, why we are doing and what we are migrating? Just a basic high-level overview would be great. Or any resource you would like to share. Yeah.
If one of y'all wants to take it, I think you might be more familiar with the Kate's infra side for migration.
Sorry, I didn't catch the question. Or it was not for me.
I think, do you have more context on like the migration and just like an overview of like what that entails?
There was a migration plan written maybe 2 to 3 years ago, but I think the expectation to write a new one with folks from Enchprod. I think that's like the one thing I'm will try to do next quarter. So basically between January and March of next year, trying to write a migration plan because there's like technical detail we're not aware of inside Google. So we need some basically input from folks like Wagner or Linus. I don't want to point fingers people. That's why I'm saying Enchprod, because we might have different people with specific. I mean, we might have a dedicated person to help us with that in terms of planning. I think our focus right now is like basically focus on planning how we want to migrate the control plane itself. And in the meantime, migrate a few things like the proud jobs. Yeah, that's priority.
Okay, so are we tracking like how much we have already moved and what need to moved? I mean, what is left?
We have a tool to basically track what was removed. I can tag you. Let me quickly find this. I can tag you to the person that wrote that tooling. You can basically run that in your laptop to see basically what's remaining. But the TLDR is mostly KOps jobs and cluster API jobs, most of them. If I basically want to look at what's remaining.
Okay, thanks for that, Arnold.
Yeah. We have a tool written by someone from Kitchen that basically track basically which repos and is have project remaining true. So it's tricky because we have some of the projects have specific credential and some of those projects require a specific infrastructure. That's what I'm saying. Like it's like kind of difficult to basically easily identify which need to be migrated quickly. So yeah, the TLDR is like only 2 repo are remaining: cluster API in Kate sig organization and KOps in Kate organization. Those are the biggest project with the most of the project remaining. Because the rest is like per repository, the classification is like I think less than 10 project that need to be migrated, and most of them like either secret and specific credential or specific infrastructure. So feel free to tag me on SIG Kit Infra channel. So if you want more detail about how to run the tool and add guidance or basically things we want to migrate.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Okay, yeah. I'm definitely adding a bit of redundancy to the list because I know that some of these things have already been mentioned in the list here. So I think we went through a lot of the migration stuff. There's some of the language specific migration stuff with Python or Go. Qkins EDE v2.
Oh yeah, so that's something that's kind of interesting, something I'm working on. So TLDR is, you might have seen Keepkin's image is kind of very messy, in part because you build Bootstrap first and then you build Keepkin's E2E. Now Bootstrap is deprecated and we got rid of it, so that we shouldn't have any projects using that. So we need to basically create Keepkin's E2E from Bookworm or like Debian upstream image. And then get rid of all the various cruft that we don't need that's in there, like Test1 and all the various bits and bobs that we copy from TestInfra. And that should give us a lean image. The other thing is I need to create an ARM64 version of that image so that etcd E2E tests can run on ARM64 nodes. As well as anybody else who wants to do ARM64 stuff. And yeah, right now I can't do that because the Bootstrap isn't ARM64 yet. I opened a PR to do that, but I think we're gonna have to land that after the release is done. I don't really want to tweak Kubernetes EDE right now, just before Kubernetes is being released. So I'm gonna do that early December. But yeah, if we're gonna do that, I think that image needs a rewrite, and we need to get rid of a lot of things. And that rewritten image will be useful everywhere except KK, because KK needs a lot of that craft that exists on the old image. So yeah, I'm probably gonna ask someone to work on that.
Kubetest is also marked as deprecated. Does anybody happen to know if that's like actually
It's used a lot.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
I
the
guess I was gonna
keyword
ask.
clusters, yeah, all the keyword clusters use that thing.
Cool, okay.
So I can't
So
get rid of that.
I think then maybe we should like try to push people having some kind of communication and effort to basically push people to migrate from Cube. It's basically the same thing with Bootstrap. Like we've been saying it's deprecated for a while, but nobody's like doing the migration. So at some point we need to like flag, it's already flagged as deprecate, but we need to think about deletion or something like that, or give a notice that like we should not use that after a specific date, like maybe 26 or 27, I don't know.
Keep test 1 deprecation will be resolved with the cap that I'm working on to get rid of keyword clusters. Because the foundation of the new thing, whether it's cops or something else, will be keep test 2. So we use extensively at cops, and any other E2E tests, any other E2E cluster provision tag will have to use keep test 2.
And how do you do with the existing job?
Can you say that again?
How do you do with the existing jobs?
They will be replaced with their cops equivalent. So we're going to launch a cluster that kind of looks like the existing cluster. Most of the jobs are like versions of the same job with different jobs running. So with different skip and focus labels, for the most part.
There are a lot of jobs. I mean, do you think that's why I'm not saying just getting rid
Well,
of
my priority is to fix release blocking and release informing, and then tell everybody else you got maybe a quarter or 2 to fix it. Then
so you are saying that you are going to say that things are, if people doesn't move, things are not going to work.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I think
that, we cannot do that.
Yeah, I think the
What's
idea
the
is like,
alternative, right?
yeah, sorry. I think the idea here is like maybe give a notice. We should at
We'll give
least
a
give a
notice,
notice.
right? Maybe n number of quarters, and then after that quarter, the things that you're depending on are going to disappear, and things will go red, and then I have to get rid of them.
That doesn't work that way.
But do we guarantee that basically anyone using Cube Test 1 can easily migrate to Cube Test 2 or KOps? Is there any guarantee?
We can make that guide and write the docs, and even run some of the more complicated scenarios as well. As part of the acceptance of that kit.
So I want to focus in 2 terms, right? So one is the immediate problem that we want to solve, and the other is the long-term problem, right? So the immediate problem is that we want to get rid of Qtest, right? That's understood, that is clear, and that is scope. And the other is start deprecating things. So we have this experience of bootstrap util, right? We know, but we never deleted that. So what we need to do is to put a stop gap, so nobody adds new things. And I want us to think in 2 phases, right? And this second phase of deleting things, we need to discuss more. I mean, we never did that. We don't break people, and we don't know what is going to happen. So I don't think. I mean, maybe it works, but I don't think that we can say.
Okay. So in that case, what are the things we can do is like that Kubekins EDV2, for example, could be the choice of the image that we use to test all the new cool things we want to do and reduce the usage of the existing image. It'll still be updated. Yeah.
What I'm saying is we have this urgency, right? Or these priorities. Just stop using Qtest, right? And I think that this is the first mile. That is just migrate and stop people using Qtest. And then once we get that, we start thinking, okay, how we remove Qtest, and we do another plan. But trying to accomplish everything in one shot is too difficult. It's too much work. It's too much spread across things, and it's too complicated. I'm all in for deleting things, trust me. But what I'm telling you is that after several years here, is something that you don't think nobody's using is going to be used by somewhere, and is going to hit somebody, and is going to spend a lot of time, and then we're going to revert or whatever thing. So that's why I'm saying is, I think that you have the right North Star, and we need to support you to go there, but try to be clear on the objectives. Just move to COPS or whatever thing, stop using Q-test, and once we achieve that milestone, we start to think how we delete all the crap.
Yeah, that's the plan. So I want to get the new thing working first.
Yeah.
Stabilize it, and then talk about getting rid of the old thing.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I just. I mean, we need to do that, but it's going to be tough and a bumpy road.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It was just why I said the priority is releasing forming and release blocking, because those are jobs that move along every version, right? The other stuff are at the cadence of whoever's working on those. And I have noticed some of those jobs don't really get updated that frequently.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying, and this is a cyclic discussion. So there was one time that we say, oh, the jobs that were there are jobs that are completely failing, right? And we said, oh, we are going to remove, and I don't remember what happened, and then they are still lingering around. So that's why I think that we should focus on the priority. Is going to be complex enough just to not give us, more problems, like trying to deal now with deprecations and all this stuff.
Okay.
Besides, in January there is this APT thing that is going to be removed, right? So I expect some jobs starting to fail. All these packages, no?
Well, somebody's working on a plan to make it not very bad. Not make it so that we don't feel that deprecation.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I expect some noise there to see what's happening. So maybe that's a good thing, and we say, oh, we can remove all this stuff. Yeah, things like that.
Okay. I'll see how that deprecation can be used to advance some of our objectives.
That's what I'm saying. But the thing of saying, oh, Six, go and check your jobs that are failing is not going to work, because most of the people that set up the jobs are no longer, or they don't know, or maybe, who knows. That's what I'm saying. It's not that we have this well organized way of working to say, oh, these jobs are from these people, they can check and triage them.
Okay.
Once we migrate, I'm really with you on starting to draft a plan to start deleting jobs. I mean, we can say job that is failing for 2 years, we remove it. That's completely or 1 year.
Also, quick question: how far off are we from using, let's say, the skeleton provider, where we can run E2E tests without worrying about cloud providers?
But that's the problem. I mean, the problem with the E3 framework is that it has some things that are there, and somebody is using them, and we try to not break people. So, for example, all the load balancer tests, or there is all these ones that you found about, I don't remember the name, the node problem detector or whatever. You see? So there are things that got leaked there. You should start from scratch. You say, okay, I'm only going to put Kubernetes code here, and it's going to be, but that's not the way that we inherit. And we are trying to be,
Okay.
polite with the people. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think there were just a couple more that we hadn't covered on the list so far. So crowd migration is kind of covered already. There's granular approval for the approved plugin. I know there's a long-standing PR on that is somewhat complex. I agree that would be a good one to be able to get in and like start enabling and using.
Yeah, that's a PR that's been there for a long time, some 10,000 PRs ago, PR/issues ago, but yeah, it's been there for a long time. I think that would be a great thing for this SIG to talk about, that we've actually delivered this thing that we've been asking forever. And it kind of seems to be almost there. We just need to fix it.
It seems almost there, but also that it requires like, I mean, constant rebasing and then also some effort for getting it across the finish line. And then probably some effort beyond that to actually like encourage people to start using it in like maybe some guides.
I think the most difficult bit is the code change. Once the
Yeah.
code change ships and it works, getting users to use it is very straightforward.
That's fair. Yeah, I think flagging that is good though. I don't know if there's anything else like, I guess, intricate that needs to be discussed for it. Migration. I put continuing the open source UI for TuskGrid, partially because I want to focus some time on at least getting it up to snuff with current stuff. And yeah, I also see the note there about potentially transferring it over to Kubernetes/TuskGrid to attract more contributors. I think that one I still want to discuss, just because like I think we will still be using like at least the code for some time internal as well. And I don't know if transferring that to a different org repo is going to be a problem. Also because what is it? I am hoping to continue contributing to that still, so that like both open source and like internal are getting benefits there. But I am also at least going to propose that maybe like the stuff for the UI moves to a separate repo, because I think that one is pretty definitive that like that use will not be internal anyway, and that should make the UI development a lot simpler, because it doesn't have to deal with a bunch of other internal craft, basically. And that might be a good place to like start with like partial, have something in the Kubernetes repo because that's where all the effort is going anyways. And then like figure out moving the backend or forking or whatnot as needed when I am more clear that that like is a good thing to do, I guess, that will like get significant benefit.
Yeah, my understanding was everything in that repo is open source, and people at Google are always welcome to add whatever functionality they're interested in. So how does that concern work when the repo is living somewhere else? Let's say outside of the Google Cloud Platform. I'm
Yeah,
guessing
exactly.
that would be too, right?
I think it probably isn't a problem as long as it's not blocking, like, honestly, it probably isn't really a problem. But I think in terms of like the thing that I'm most interested in signaling basically is like, where is effort coming from? Currently, I think a lot of that effort is coming from like me or other folks on the TuskGrid team within Google. But that won't be the case for UI 1, and then 2. Yeah, like we are still making use of it.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm following.
Yeah, I
backwards,
understand.
but
I understand what you're trying to get at. Single vendor projects are a bit of a funny one.
it's yeah. I know. What's up?
Yeah, another alternative is like to bootstrap a new project inside the Kubernetes as a sub-project of sig-testing. If you feel like we want to basically migrate that inside Kubernetes, because it's like just a UI, an open source UI, so we can have multiple implementation. this is an opinion one based on Google technology using Flutter as the base, but you can basically bootstrap a new project using, for example, React to build a UI. We don't necessarily need a donation for GCP at this point, because ultimately, I think over the last 2 years, Enchpa was able to expose all the data for test grid through one API. So we can literally deploy the UI inside the community infrastructure, pointing to a Google API, an API, and later do the migration of the backend.
Yeah, that's actually kind of the reason for the API in the first place, is the API is meant to be exposed for front-end consumption, so that there is like a clean layer between them that can be like more easily upgraded or made use of. The other thing is also, we were talking about before anyways, splitting out the UI from the backend in a repo anyway, because due to the like languages they're built in, it kind of makes builds a little bit cleaner and easier. Currently it's dealing with like NPM stuff within a Golang repo, and that's caused like a bit of annoyance. So honestly, it might be reasonable to have it like, even if we say like test group moves over to the Kate's repo and that's like where all the main focus is, it might still be better to have those in 2 sub repos anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that can work. The API is public. We know what the contract is. So we could bootstrap a new test grid UI repo and then move the code over there and ask people to start developing things. Because we
Yeah.
already know what the UI should look like and what features we want. So people just need to build a modern thing of the existing thing.
Yeah, I think the implementation should be different from the one that is on the current UI, because frankly, that one is not like there are better ways to do it. But like the feature set, I think getting to parity on that would be like a reasonable first start. And then there are, of course, like a bunch of other stuff for improving like usability, etc. that would be good to incorporate. But yeah, my aim at least like to start would be feature parity with a UI that is like fully open source. And that should be a lot easier to contribute to and make fixes to.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'm gonna add notes, possibly. Yeah, treating the UI as a thing separate from the rest of the backend and resolving backend later potentially. Cool. Okay, I think that was the last one that wasn't really covered on here. So, is there anything else that folks want to propose or discuss or whatnot? Sounds like nothing really. So yeah, thanks for the discussion, folks. If there's anything else, you can always follow up in the Slack channel, of course. And then I will probably try and clean these up a little bit into just like getting all the related bullets together and putting something together, I guess. I think a lot of these are already tracks, and this isn't maybe like a particular issue, but like have something that we can like more formally point people to and make sure that stuff is tagged in the repo appropriately and whatnot.
Okay.
But yeah. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.